All right, all right, all right. What's going on, everybody? How y'all doing? Welcome back again to another episode of Coffee and Cigars live stream here on the Ono Live channel. I'm Jay, your host, as always. It is now Thursday, September 21. We do it every Thursday night, 8 p.m. Eastern. So thank you very much for joining in. If you're just joining us for the very first time, welcome. It's a good time. We just kind of hang out here, talking coffee, talking cigars, talking about whatever's going on in the world. And then, yeah, that's pretty much it. So today's show, we've got some stuff coming on. We got some coffee from Israel, and then we also have a cigar from the Dominican Republic that actually comes from RoMa Craft and Ernesto Perez-Carillo Jr. So we got that to come up. So how y'all doing? What's going on? Anything happening? Anything good? What's going on this week? How's it been here in Baltimore? It's been a nice week, rather pleasant on the weather. I've been doing some projects here. As you can see, it's all like clean behind me for a change. And that's because up here, there's a hole in the ceiling because we got a leak in the roof. The last big rain we had the whole thing come down. It was a mess. I had to clean it up. And then evidently we're going to have a big storm this weekend, like kind of like tropical storm level. And I got to make sure that's all cleaned up so that if it does rain and inside here, I've got a way to protect that. And then what you can't see in front of me is the bookshelf. I've had this bookshelf that I installed when we built this place in 2018. And it's been sagging because of the weight of the books. I didn't quite compensate for that. So I spent most of the day or part of today, re-leveling it and reinforcing it. So that's been quite a fun challenge. Now it's even looking nicer. I think we're going to live stream about that on the coffee Q&A on the onocoffee channel tomorrow. But yeah, that's pretty much what's been happening. So we got nice weather. It's been good. And today's cigar is an interesting one because it wasn't originally going to be a schedule. We were going to do this La Pipa one, the one that looks like a pipe. I had that scheduled, but then I was fine. Let's rewind with it. So RoMa Craft finally came out with their Quinquagenario. And I was like, I got a couple of sticks from the local retailer. And I was like, well, you know what? Let's bump this up because, it just came out, right? So the other cigars have been out for a while. So let's do this one because it's, a very timely manner. So we're going to do that a little bit later. But first, we've got this coffee that comes from one of our buddies, Muddy. He's BAPD, Baltimore County PD. And he likes to go to Israel and hang out there and brings coffee back from Israel. And so he's like, hey, man, I got this coffee. I want you to try. Really love it. And we actually featured on the the Coffee Q&A live stream a couple of days ago. And this one is from Coffee Roasters Jerusalem, a place known as the Shook Cafe. Oh, what's up, Mom? How are you, man? Good to see you. Mom's already seen this. Mom, this is already old news for you. Anyway, this comes from Jerusalem. And it says here, Baker's Chocolate Red Honey. We roasted it up, or we brewed it up the other day, and I thought of the two, this was the one that I liked better. So the other one was called, we did that yesterday, and now I can't remember the name. Anyway, this is the one that I like better. So we're going to brew some of this and enjoy that with today's coffee or today's cigar. And this one, let's see here. I just finished up the... like I mentioned in the past, I've been working on this overhead camera system, and finally it's all set up, and I'm just trying to get it to work and get a feel for it. But right now, the orientation of the camera is different than we normally do it, so it's reverse. So, but you can see here the Golden Black Coffee Roast of Jerusalem. It is a place called Shook Cafe, the Golden Black, and here's a little bit of the label in Hebrew. Of course, I can't read Hebrew, so. I don't know. Like I said, this is a kosher coffee that, there it is. Let's get into it. There's Tony. What's going on, Tony? How are you? Tony and the boys are coming in from the club, the Elks Club. How's it going over there, Tony, today at the Elks? Everything good? Kind of wish we had like a call-in format. Something like, hey, how you doing? Welcome to see you. Welcome to the show. How's everything going? So we've got our coffee, and did I bring it over here? I thought I brought it over here. There it is. So this is the coffee. I pre-ground it, but did a pretty coarse grind on it. One of the things, it's always hard to see. It's a little bit of a darker roast, but not bad. Let's have a smell of it. And toasty notes, a little bit of cacao. it has this nose of being a bit roasty, but I think it'll be fine. All right, so let's see. We're going to brew this today. We've been brewing them on the coffee Q&A in immersion brewers. So we're going to continue that trend by using the Hario switch dripper. And this is the Hario switch dripper, which is a full immersion type of dripper that you can actually use as a V60 if you want to. I picked this up while I was in Tokyo from a place called Tokyo Hands. It's a big department store that has all these home goods. It's actually the kind of store where I end up spending a lot of money. So I really try not to go there. But this is the switch. Let me show you this. This is the switch here. And the nice thing about this particular one, it's a glass. It's a glass switch. I really like that. Nice and weighty. It also won't really tarnish like the plastic will. It has the venturis that you would have in the typical V60, but it does have a ball valve here. And then the ball basically falls down when it's vertical oriented. And you can see it, you can kind of see it down there. Let me see. Oh, you see it moving? So that's it. So now closed, now open. And Tony says that it's very noisy. Apparently it's third Thursday. Oh, what does that mean? Third Thursday means there's bands or something? There's stuff going on? All right, so we've got our switch. We're going to brew the switch into the Yama thing, right? So let me set that up here for you. We need to get our revenge boxes together. So let me show that. Revenge box. Oh, revenge boxes. They're all ready. Oh, there we go. They're ready. I'm going to put the scale on it. Oh, how do we get the scale? There we go. Scale's going to sit there. I'm going to put this all together. So it looks like this coming up to you. Just a large group of annoying people. All right, then we're going to take our paper filters. This time, on the coffee Q&A, I haven't really been using these. I've been using our typical paper filters. The Melita. These are the actual V60 paper filters. So we're going to try that, see if there might be any advantage to using this. So these are already pre-folded and whatnot. We're just going to take it, insert it. When you open it up, there is a seam. You can fold that seam over. And then put it in. Then we're going to add the coffee. Now we're just going to shake to level. All right, there it is. We're ready to go. Right, that's that. We're ready to go. We're ready to go. Now we're going to turn the scale on. You really can't see it, can you? There we go. 3,000. All right, we got our timer set up here. Let's put the timer there. Of course, that's all out of focus, so I don't know what we're going to get out of that. All right, so let's add some water. We're going to have about 85 grams of water to start with, just to saturate the grounds. Whoops, a little bit more than I wanted, and not a very good saturation. All right, now we're waiting about 30 seconds for the bloom to happen. There is blooming happening, so the coffee's still fairly fresh, which is great. You know, maybe it's a month old or so, but we're still getting some freshness, and now we're going to break it all down. We're going to give it the full fill. I filled it all the way to the edge. This is actually a 2-cup instead of a 4-cup model. I didn't realize that at the time, which means that we're just going to have to add extra as we go along. So right now we have 255 grams of water. Add a little bit more. See how much we can actually fill in there. And I brought it right to the edge there. Like any more, it's actually going to go over the edge. And we now have 295 grams of coffee. And we're now running, how long now? 1 minute, 30 seconds. We still got another minute and a half. So once we get this started to flow down, right? Once it starts to flow down, we're going to add the rest of the 350 grams. So where's everybody out tonight? Inside, outside? It's a beautiful night here. I have, like I said, I've heard that's going to get some crazy rain this weekend, which really kind of sucks, actually. I got to be careful not to shake the table because it's going to fall over, and that would be a problem. We're almost there. 2 minutes, 22 seconds. I have a little bit of a drip here at the bottom of the carafe, right? There's a little bit of a drip. You can't really see it, but there's a drip at the, just one drip. It's not continuing. Maybe because I banged the table. I don't know. Well, that's all right. That's all right. 2:45. We got 15 seconds left on the timer. And then we're going to hit the valve. I'm going to show you the valve here. Here's the valve here. 57, 58, 59, 60. So let's hit the valve. Right there. Push that in. And then we're going to add some water. I'm going to pour it down the top here and try to capture all of this. Oh, darn it. That was too much. As I'm getting overzealous in my... I'm going to stop it where I think it should be just about right. Okay, there we go. Stop right about there. We're going to stop it there. Close the valve. There's going to be some liquid in there. Take that out. Move that over here. And that should give us a nice little bit of a brew. All right, look at that. All right. Look at that. What's going on? What's up, George, man? How you doing? What's going on? What do you got? You got the El Wednesday going on with us today? Is that with some El Wednesday? Maybe some, are you a diet? Were you doing like Pepsi for a bit? Is that right? We're drinking some coffee here from, oops, wrong button. From Israel, from a place called Shuk Cafe in Jerusalem that Muddy gave to us to try out. Definitely some roasty, toasty notes there. Some cacao. It's going to be a little bit hot, but let's give it a little try. There is a bit of pungency, like on the cheeks. I think we recorded that the other day on Tuesday when we made this coffee on the coffee Q&A on the onocoffee channel. George is having a Trinidad Espiritu. Oh, nice, nice. Is that the one that has the colorful band? Is that right? I've had that one. That's a nice cigar. Yeah, there's definitely a pungent. There's a little bit of sweetness. It's a bit bitter. It's a bit roasty. I'm remembering now. I remember us talking about maybe adding some cream and sugar. This would be a nice cream and sugar coffee as well. All right. A little bit darker than I normally like. A little bit darker. Let's move this out of the way. Yep, the yellow and green band. Yes. I have had that. That is a fun one to smoke. Wonder how this would be as a cold brew. Like, I think that this would be really nice with cream and sugar. A little bit to offset the bitterness and the pungency. But one of the interesting things is that while it does have those bitterness and pungent aspects to it. It doesn't have the dirtiness that we get from like, what is this guy doing here? Who is that guy? Got this bug flying around. But it doesn't have the dirty muddiness that like some like defective coffees would have. This is rather relatively clean. And Tony's having the diesel vintage Rabito Lonsdale and a smuggled dairy cherry Pepsi into the smuggled the Pepsi. That's terrible, man. That's terrible. Terrible. All right, now we're gonna go to our cigar of the evening. Let's get into it. We've got the bust out our humidor here. So tonight's cigar is the RoMa Craft Quinquagenario. And if you're not familiar with this Quinquagenario, it is a cigar that was developed to celebrate the 50th birthdays of the founders of RoMa, Skip Martin and Mike Rosales. And I believe Skip's 50th was last year, 2022, and Mike's is actually 2024. So the release is coming between their two birthdays. My understanding is that it was supposed to have been released last year, but they weren't able to get it all wrapped up and ready to go. And this is the first cigar that's made by Nica Sueño for RoMa Craft that has been, or this is the first RoMa Craft that was not made by Nica Sueño, and it's made by Tabacalera Alianza in the Dominican Republic because Skip collaborated with Ernesto Perez-Carillo Jr. to create this cigar. And if you're not familiar, Ernesto Perez-Carillo is known as EPC. He has cigars, EPC cigars, but more importantly, he was the guy that really started the non-Cuban version of La Gloria Cubana back in the 90s, and it was like one of the super celebrated cigars of the 90s. And sold that off to another company and now makes his own cigars, and he's having, they've collaborated for this cigar. Now, I did go and get this. It's come out. Oh, Tony's also having iced tea. Nice. And I know they came out with one of the local tobacconists, got them in. I saw them on their Instagram. So I drove over there, picked up a few cigars just to taste. And I have had one of them. And I won't talk about what I've experienced there. But I will, because I don't want to like, I really was interested. So I smoked one Saturday. Normally I wouldn't have done that, but I was like, you know what? Let's do it. All right, so here's our cigar box. Now, the MSRP for the Quinquagenario is $15. So here it is. It's a Robusto cigar, but at this cigar shop, that they're charging $17.29. That's how much I paid. So a little bit. So these are some of the cigars coming up, and I do have one more of the Quinquagenarios. Well, I guess we should also check out the Boveda pack, right? How is the Boveda doing in here? The original Boveda is somewhere here. I just made it all not so nice anymore. But still, look at that. Still looking good. All right, I'll fix that later. All right, here it is, Quinquagenario. Now, to be honest with you, when I first got it, I was like, oh, it's kind of small. Like, I bought this, and I was like, what? Like, 5x50? Where's the 6x56? Like, the Breach of the Peace is 6x56, I think. The Revenge is a bigger cigar. Like, this one feels diminutive. It's like, oh, it's kind of small. Like, I'm like ready for big RoMa action. And it's like, oh, it's kind of small RoMa action. But it's a pretty cigar. It is a pretty cigar, nicely made. I mean, there's really nothing to like dislike about it. But let's take it out of the package. So $17.29. It's pricey. That's pricey. That's a pricey cigar. And they come in boxes of 24. So here's the thing. So it feels silky. The nice thing is that it's well hydrated, the wrapper. It feels silky. It's got a nice chocolate brown. You know, the veins are not very big. There's a little bit of an aberration on the wrap there, but that's not a big deal. As you can see, it says Quinquagenario right? And if you're not familiar, Quinquagenario means someone that is between the ages of 50 and 59 years old. You know, in the 50s, old guy, old and grumpy kind of people. So it's a pretty cigar. Look at that. Pretty. How do we do this? I'm trying to cover up all the letters so that it's always kind of like, there we go. That's sad. That's not even better. Forget it. All right. So let us do a little bit of, we're going to do our markups here. So we're going to say our third is there and our third is there. There it is. The thirds are there. Let's do our wrapper color. I think the wrapper color is a little bit on the lighter side. So maybe right around there. Right? All right, let's look at some fragrance and cold draw. It's a light barnyard, not so much manure, but more barnyard. And it's where some cigars have a very like forward barnyard manure kind of character on the fragrance. This is very, very light. Light, slight sweetness somewhere beneath that barnyardness. All right, let's do a little cutting now. We're going to use our Cigar MTX cutter. Official cutter of the coffee Q&A. I mean, of the Coffee and Cigars live stream. Oh, this one, I think this one's starting to be in need of some sharpening. That could have been a better cut. That was more like a chomping rather than a cutting. Look at that. Not so pretty, not so pretty. I'm gonna have to go back at it. Clean that up, baby. Clean that up. Yeah, that's a little bit better. Oh. Very free-flowing draw. Like there's like almost no resistance. Hey, D-Love and the wife, what's going on, man? Good to have you with us. How you doing? Eager to hear your thoughts on the cigar. Me too. Me too. We're gonna get into it. Hope you enjoy it. If you're, what are you smoking tonight? If you're smoking something, let us know down in the comments, or here in the comments. So the draw is super light. Like it's very easy, very free-flowing. Like I don't think the first one I smoked was like this light. This is a little bit different. This is definitely easier, more flowing than the other one that I had. I mean, this is the kind of free-flowing draw that especially if you've smoked for a while, you kind of notice. You're like, whoa, that's pretty light. That said, there's a light sweetness on the tongue, but I'm not really getting much out of the cold draw. A little bit of, I want to say bakeryness, like a breadiness on the tongue, like a sweet breadiness. All right, so we're going to light this up. But before I light up, I wanted to show you, I found, I was cleaning out one of my drawers, the cigar drawer I have, and I found this box of Davidoff matches. And this is the box. This is a box of Davidoff matches from the late 90s. And you can tell because it's got the cedar sticks, or at least they were dipped in color. I'm pretty sure I've talked about this in the past, but I was turned on to these matches by the movie director Tony Scott. And Tony was a ravenous consumer of Monte Cristo No. 2 Habanas. Like when we would go to work, he would be smoking from the time we had call to the time we wrapped, like 15 hours 16, 18 hours of nonstop Monte Cristo number twos. It was really, really impressive. This is back in the days, way before we had the smoking bans, and we smoked freely on set. Like those set, it was a movie called Enemy of the State. And that was a very much a smoking set. Like we smoked and smoked. And so one day Tony and I are talking. He's like, "Hey man, these are the best matches in the world." I was like, "Really?" All right, let me try those. And I tried them. I really liked them. I started buying them. Of course, in the years that have passed, Davidoff has changed their way of making matches. So here's more of a more recent match book from Davidoff. It's all this. I have to keep it at an angle because it's so much light that the thing. And so as you can see here, like this Davidoff one, it's the phosphorus is probably similar, but they changed the wood. So the wood, I don't know if these were dyed or not. Maybe George Brightman will chime in and tell us, but we always presume that these were cedar matches, which was super luxurious, right? So we're going to try lighting that. And as a comparison, this is the ones from Capital Cigar that George works with. I like the blue. I like that a lot. I like that a lot. All right, so let's get to the light. Try these vintage matches. Oh, still light. Good Lord, look at that. Was it 10, 20, 25 years later? There's a bit of spice initially on the initial light up. But I'm also seeing, I feel like, oh dear, I really scorched the hell out of that. But I feel like as I'm puffing on it with lighting it, and I'm that initial puff that I kind of exhale, I feel like the smoke didn't look white to me. It looked more grayish black. I don't know if that's because of the type of wood that's in this thing or what, but that was a very strange observation. Tony says they were cedar and spectacular. Oh, yes. Oh, yeah, that's got to be it. There's definitely a spiciness that I think is the cedar of the wood of the matches. Oh, the super easy draw. God, that's nice. Like the draw is super easy. It's suddenly it feels like a cigar you would just want to suck down like with reckless abandon. Now you're gonna have to take my comments maybe with a bit of grain of salt because I know Mike and Skip personally. I would consider us to be friends, and I've hung out with them. We hang out together. We talk every once in a while. So I know them personally, and I'm a big fan of their product. Like the Revenge is my go-to cigar. So whatever I say, you're gonna have to take that with a little bit of salt and consideration. Like, am I being fanboyish? That's one of the reasons why I haven't really featured RoMa Craft very often on the show, because I might easily be a fanboy, right? And I don't want to, I don't want to be hyping something up that doesn't, that I just don't want to give it, more than it really is due. That definitely that spiciness start off could have been from the cedar, the aged cedar, but there's still a good amount of spices. I'm thinking a pepperiness, which is what I thought about the original cigar. There's a bit of pepperiness, even though it's a Dominican cigar and it's not a Nicaraguan cigar. It's almost as though they're taking the Dominican cigars and playing with the blending of it so that it gives a Nicaraguan-esque impression on the palate. There's definitely some good body to it. Oh, I do need to rate we need to rate the fragrance and cold draw. So let's see here. Fragrance. Yeah, I'd say it's a medium on the fragrance intensity scale. Cold draw, I thought it was a little bit lower on the scale. I'm just going to say it was very good. So an 8. So that's going to be our first score is 8. And for those of you who are just joining us, we have this score sheet that we've developed. It kind of based it off of the one we use in the coffee world, where we're looking at 10 criteria across the cigar. So we start off with the fragrance and cold draw, and that gives it a total possible points of 10. And what we're looking here for is intensity of fragrance and the cold draw, and then the quality of it, right? So it doesn't have to be high in these two categories to get a higher score here. It's more about intensity and then the quality of that intensity. The first category is just also marking a note, where is the color of the wrapper? That's really that. Then as we go through it, we're going to be talking flavor and body in the 3/3. So flavor, what is the quality of that flavor? And then the body, how much body intensity? Is it mild? Is it heavy? Is it medium? And then what is the quality of that body? Again, on a total scale of 1 to 10, but really effectively 6 to 10. Now, what we're doing here is we are actually assigning descriptives to help with thinking about how to give a score, right? So we have 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and think of it in terms of descriptions. 6, average. 7 is good. 8, very good. 9, excellent. And then 10, extraordinary. Like in our scale, it's a little bit, I think it's a little more stringent than other scales, where I think a lot of these other places will give scores, with the exception of developing palates. I think they have a nice system in their 5-point scale, but they'll just kind of give scores. And I think it's difficult as a reader or an enthusiast to follow along with what they're thinking in their scoring. If everything is 90 plus, then how valuable is a 90 plus, right? How valuable is 93 at that point? So ours is a little bit more demanding of thinking. So as you're smoking along, and this is also available on the descriptions down below, you can download for yourself and see for yourself and print it out and give it a try. But as you're, let's say, tasting the flavor, you're thinking of the flavor descriptives, and it's not really about the descriptives, right? Like you could find your own descriptives if you find kumquats or tobacco or pepper or whatever you want. But think of the quality, that how nice of a quality is it? And when you think about it, do you think it's just an average quality? Do you think it's a very good quality? Do you think it's extraordinary quality, the most amazing you've ever had? Then that kind of guides you towards a point score, right? And so we know you're a fanboy. Yeah, but that's probably true. That's probably true. I did fly all the way down to Austin last year for Weasel Fest. Had a great time on it. Moving on to the Don Pepin Series JJ White Label Robusto from the Capital event. Oh, nice. Nice. And then finally, for those of you just joining us again, just to round it out, we've got burn and draw. You know, what's that? How is that? Consistency throughout the cigar. And then you get to give it your overall score. And the overall score, I tend to use it in a way that's informed by the rest of it, right? So let's say there's, a variety of stuff, but nothing of higher than 8.5. You wouldn't see 8.5 or more here unless the majority of these were 8.5. So just kind of like that. And so there's the whole points, right? Average, good, very good, excellent, extraordinary. But there's also midpoints. At every 0.25, you can kind of gauge it in intensity, right? So 8, 8.25, 8.5, 8.75, 9. And that's kind of how we've been working it. And then you can also see down in the description, there's also a link to the rankings of the cigars. So you can see how we've ranked all the cigars that we smoked this year and last year. We only started this whole system January of 2022, which was after the first 6 months of the show. And and it's interesting. Like my favorite cigar is the Revenge, but I think we reviewed that on the show last year and gave it 84.5. The highest score ever so far is 93.5 by the Mirfel Mare, which was an amazingly wonderful cigar. Amazingly wonderful. But my most favorite cigar is not ranked the highest. So I don't know. I don't know what that means to you. Maybe I'm crazy. But the cigar smoking super nicely. Like this is smoking. It's really charming, this smoke. It's the draw is super easy. Copious amounts of smoke to fill the palate. You're not struggling to suck on it. It's just coming really just like when I did the cold draw, I thought it might, oh gosh, I thought for a moment it might be a bit too loose, like too much flow. But right now it's like, oh, it's just the right. Like it's just like, oh, it's like pee. It's pee, right? Like it's just there. And the burn is lovely. Well, the burn's a little bit off, but I think that's because of the way that I lit it. I kind of singed it as I was lighting it. But the on camera, the ash looks a lot whiter than it does in person. Like the ash is not, to my eye, from this here. And I do have, more 3500 Kelvin incandescent tone lighting coming down on the desk rather than what you're seeing, which is, 6500 Kelvin lighting, which is daylight lighting. So it looks whiter here than it does to my eye. Here's something I was wondering for you guys. As you're puffing, are you a single puffer? Like meaning when you puff on the cigar, do you just do one puff? Or are you a double puffer where you do two? Or are you a triple puffer? I think I tend to fall more into the double and triple period. I got to be a little bit careful now. I think by doing those 6 successive puffs, it's got a little bit of heat building right here under the wrapper. That might be a little bit too fast of smoking. So we got to slow down a little bit. Mom says that he's a double. Excellent. Excellent. Yeah, me too. I think I'm definitely more in that double and triple. And George is also a double. Yeah, I wonder, like, is this something, and 22, most times double. So here's a question for you. Is this double thing, is that something that we've been taught? Like, and not necessarily like when you're starting out smoking, like, how many times should I puff on this? No, not like that. But I mean, like, are we just surrounded by people that double puff? And so we think subconsciously that that's the correct manner? Mom says sometimes triple. Yeah, me too. Me too. See, I fall somewhere between the double and triple myself. I was thinking about this the other day when I was smoking. I was like, maybe I should just do one puff because maybe that one puff would let me last the cigar longer, right? And I get maybe hour and a half, 2 hours out of it instead of sometimes the 45 minutes. Like when I'm watching TV shows, like when I'm down in the mixed lounge watching on the big screen broadcast television, and we're watching shows, like I'll burn through a Revenge in 45 minutes. It's like, oh man, darn it. I got to bring more cigars with me. It's terrible. No, it's about what you're satisfied. Oh, okay. So the more satisfied that you are with a cigar, the more puffing you're doing. Okay, I get that. And D Love says that a gentle priming puff, and then see, that's because you're like some kind of like true aficionado that's sitting there luxuriating in your moment. You're just taking a gentle priming puff and then a slow pull. See, I don't think I'm classy enough for that. I think that requires a amount of class and like sophistication. Us guys in our group, we're just sitting outside in like folding chairs most of the time. I think that's when you're at like Club Macanudo, you're just, and then you're in your nice suit, just like. Or if you're one of the people that are invited to the Hallow Lounge at Davidoff, New York. No, just kidding. I can do it. I can pull it off. You know what I'm going to have to pay attention to? Next time I watch a Kirby Allison smoking video, I'm going to have to watch how he smokes. Does he do multiple puffs? Or is he like one of those guys that just like a little bit of a primer and then a little bit of slow draw? I love that. I love that idea, though. I love that idea. Tony says, I draw in, puff in succession. Usually more volume of smoke, like D-Love said. Yeah, but you see, I think D-Love is all about the luxuriating. Where I think the puff and the volume, you get usually more volume. It's like we're just trying to be like, oh, that was a good amount of smoke there. A good amount of smoke. I like that. All right, so good spiciness. Now, it's not the typical like spice you think of Nicaraguan cigars. It does have that black pepperness. It's got a nice complexity in the cigar. It is quite interesting. It's very different than like most RoMa crafts, which what to expect. It's coming from Ernesto Carillo, and from his factory with Dominican tobacco. So it's not going to be the same experience. It doesn't have that heavy duty punch that RoMa craft is known for. It's got a little bit of that, right? It's not like a light wrapper Dominican that's just kind of like light and smooth. This has a little bit of oomph, good body, like a medium plus body, some scratchiness from the pepperiness, the spiciness. But it's also one that's a little bit more blended. Now, it doesn't have the melange feeling that, let's say, the Mir Felmer or the 20th anniversary Don Pepin had. Like, those are very melange, like, very, like, everything is so well blended and so well aged that it's just like, everything is just like, this still has a little bit of punch to it, right? It still has it has some punch to it, but it doesn't have the hey of different flavors. It's just more of that kind of nicely blended. And Tony says, I'm luxuriating on my first puff. All right. I love it. I love it. I want to tap it. I want to tap it out. Because, I think we're getting very close to the first third. Like, I'm getting nervous with the length of the ash. But like I was saying with the RoMas, a lot of the RoMas tend to be a little bit of a tour de force, right? Like I have to admit, as much as I love the RoMas and I smoke a lot of them, Cro-Magnon, a little bit heavy for me. Neanderthal, yeah, that's a bit heavy, right? Like I'm just like, oh man, I feel it. Like when I was smoking through the Grand Coronas, oh man, I was feeling some of those cigars. Like, oh, this is too much. This is too much for me. I'm a lightweight I want like lighter cigars. I don't want to have the punchiness. And like the craziest one was that one from 2018, the 2018 Craft. I don't know how many of you guys had that, but if you had that, and I always said this many times on the show, but that thing was like hammering you in the face, at least hammering me in the face. So this is definitely not like that. And I think we're definitely at the point of the first third. Oh, no, maybe not. Maybe just a little bit more time. Okay, we'll keep going. George saying, when I'm enjoying a cigar, I'm not necessarily thinking I do enough of that. Agreed. I don't want to overanalyze my cigar etiquette or how I enjoy it. It's customized for my individual. Yes, I totally 100% agree with you. I don't disagree. It's just one of these things that I was sitting there the other day smoking, and I was just thinking, why do I puff this much? Is there a reason why I puff? If I puff slower, maybe I'll have a longer enjoyment. But when you get to that cigar that you really enjoy, man, you just want to puff and puff and puff and it's like, really? All right, so this is really getting to the point where I'm nervous. I'm going to tap that out, which is probably going to cause a little bit of a bloom in the heat. All right, so that's tapped out. Quinquagenario, look at that band. Like, the band is nice. I was going to offer you a spoiler alert about the band, but I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm not going to do that. I like it. Double banded, white band underneath a nice dark blue. It's a really pretty blue, actually. Now, under the lighting in the camera, I think that's really pretty. Slightly more heat. But gosh, look at that smoke. The smoke is spicy. It's lively. It's entertaining. Actually, when I was first smoking the first one on Saturday night, we're at my friend's house, a buddy's house, where I had a big fire going on, right? So I'm smoking this. I don't think I enjoyed it as much as I'm enjoying this one. Like this one, I'm really enjoying. That one was like, okay, it's good. It's good. It's good. It doesn't replace the Revenge, but it's good. But this is really good. Like this is really coming alive. It's a suit, and it's so different. Like I can't really compare it to the Revenge. The Revenge is completely a different cigar than this. Like the Revenge is a little more power, a little more robustness, a little bit more like pronunciation. This is less of that. And in a very different way. It's a little bit more refined even. So I imagine, and I've seen Skip commenting on this cigar and his efforts in Dominican over the years on his Facebook page. So I'm guessing that what I'm thinking is that this is how Skip would interpret the use of Dominican tobaccos. I think that's really perhaps the best way to think of this one. Mom says their bands. The bands are the hardest to take off. Oh yeah, definitely those bands. Everybody complains about those bands. Skip says, well, just got to pull it off, and so you have to take the band. You have to pull it off over the cherry, right? You can't pull it this way because it damages the wrapper. You have to pull it this way over the burn parts. We wait till the burn gets to about here, and then you have to pull it. Problem is, you're burning your fingers. Oh, of course, all of you, the guys that smoke in RoMa Craft, know this, but like it's like you're burning your fingers. You're like, what kind of craziness is this? And they use this that he calls it the wine label paper, that nice paper, heavyweight paper. So it's not so slick and coated like a lot of cigar bands are. And so that combined with the vegetable gum that they're using to seal it just makes it impossible to pull off. And I like to save my bands and flatten them out and like keep them. And typically I give them to my friend's wife so she can make collages with them. But I like to preserve them as much as possible. The RoMa Craft can't even do that. Can't do it. Yeah, it's like trying to remove a moist tongue from. I don't think I've ever done that. And I went to military school in the middle of winter, so I had plenty of opportunity waiting for school to start while waiting on the parade grounds in the dead of winter to stick my tongue against the flagpole. I never did that, though. At least I don't recall. Maybe I blocked it out. I don't know. All right, let's see here. Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Yeah, we're definitely there. Let's have a look. All right, so here we are. Cigar grading form. We're definitely past the first third. So let's look at our results. Let's consider our results. Body. I'm going to say the body was definitely medium plus. I'm going to say 875. Very good plus. Like on the higher end of the very good plus. On the higher end of the very good. Flavor, I'm going to say same. Very good plus. So at 875, 875, 1675, 1750. So here's our results so far. 875 for the body, nice medium plus body, and then 875 for the flavor, and an 8 on the fragrance and cold draw. Man, that draw is just super, super brilliant. Like, gosh, that draw is excellent. Excellent. That's got to be an excellent there. And the burn so far, oh yeah. Here's a potential problem. It's 850. The tone of the time will be 850. We've already gone through the first third. And I think then again, we started what, 8:20? So half an hour for a third? Okay, we might be all right. Sometimes I think maybe at this rate, we're going to blow through the cigar by like 9:15. So how's your week been? Everything been good? My week's been good. I was going to go do some clay shooting today, but I just ran out of time. I've been working here. We're also talking about doing this event. This organization wants to come and do an event down in DC, middle of next month. So I was talking with my business partner about that, trying to figure like what kind of event can we do? What kind of event do they want? Like it's something to support or celebrate Hispanic Week. And I don't even know what the event is. We're still trying to figure that out. So we're being contracted by a company that does events for organizations. So we're like 2 steps removed from the actual organization that's putting this event on. So we have about 150 people or so, maybe a little bit more, and they want a variety of coffees, like 5 different coffees from Latin American countries, from Central and South America. And the managing partner of whatever firm that's hiring everyone is Ecuadorian. So we want something that's going to be Ecuadorian. And I think I found this great coffee from. So there's a woman that I know, Diana Bustamante, and Denise Bustamante, and her and her sister have a farm in Ecuador. Beautiful coffees, beautiful. So I called a friend of mine who works a lot more with them than I do. I haven't worked with them at all. And he's like, yeah, I got this one's coffee. It's really brilliant. So I'm like, dude, how much you have left? He's like, 5 pounds. Put that aside for me. Let me see if we can work on that one, because I think it'll be just a beautiful, beautiful coffee to enjoy. And we're lining up some coffees from Nicaragua, from one of the importers here. And then another importer does Colombian that we know. So I'm going to talk to her, bringing some of the coffees that she has. And then I talked to another friend of mine who's in Honduras, in Copan Ruinas, which is the very western edge of Honduras. And she has some coffee in country, so I'm going to get some of that. So I think it'll be really, really brilliant stuff. And I'm thinking maybe we'll go for Costa Rican or Ecuadorian coffee. The harder part of this whole adventure is that, we're talking we only need 5 pounds of each one. So trying to buy 5 pounds of green is a little bit more difficult, So it's just taking a little more of a juggling, just a little bit more juggling. And George is asking, how about strength? No, definitely not Neanderthal level. I would say the strength is not even to the Revenge, the Intemperance BA level. Like there's definitely a punchiness to the Revenge that this doesn't quite have, right? Most RoMa craft cigars are very punchy, very like assertive. This is not that assertive. This is a lot more refined. So basically it's to our super puffing and lots of smoke, brutish kind of smoking compared to D-Love's, more luxuriant style of smoking. That's the difference between the two. That's how I describe it, at least. And I haven't had the need to drink the coffee. Let me try this coffee now. It's Israeli coffee. This would be the coffee that Jesus would have drank. Which makes me wonder, is there softer character to this? Like a softer... Honestly, it's not quite in line. It's not adding to the experience. I think maybe a brighter coffee would be much more better suited to be paired with this cigar. And look at that. I'm flying through it again. I'm flying through this. We're not even 9 o'clock and I'm flying through this thing. We're going to have a short show today. It's going to be like Steve's finally going to get online. He'll be like, hey, I'm here, guys. We'll be like, oh, signing off. Have a good one, Steve. See you later. Sorry, Steve. Sorry. Yeah, I should slow down. I should slow down. Take it easy. So how about shows, man? Have you guys been watching anything? I finally saw the last episode of Ahsoka. Actually, last Thursday, I had not seen last week's episode of Ahsoka. So I got to see last week's episode, and then I watched this week's episode yesterday. And you know what? I had some serious reservations a couple weeks ago about Ahsoka, like especially when they revealed that Grand Admiral Thrawn was in another galaxy. I was like, what are we going to do here? We're going to go to another galaxy? How's it going to happen? How long is it going to take him? And then they had the hyperspace jump. Now, of course, there's a bit of hokiness, right? Like hyperspace whales. What in the world? Hyperspace like humpback whales. I was like, come on, man. What is that? That is just so far-fetched. Like, that really isn't a galaxy far, far away. But I have to say, last week's episode, Ahsoka was killed or something like that. She goes to a whole nother ethereal plane. Where who does she find as ethereal plane? Anakin Skywalker, who is her master. She was the Padawan to Anakin. And I have been down on Anakin for a very long time. Like, I just did not like Anakin. I thought his whole arc in the first trilogy just took so much away from the mystique and aura of Star Wars, especially Darth Vader. But to see him being more fleshed out in that last episode, I was like, okay, I'm starting to turn, and I'm starting to like Anakin. I'm starting to see that he's got a deeper story than what we've seen so far. Man, I think I'm going to have to get more of these. So at the local retailer, they charge a premium, $17.29. Now, there is an OTP tax, right? I think it's 6% OTP? So that could account for some of it. But, when you buy the box, if you buy a box from them, box 24, it's $415. Now, if you go to places like a Cigar Hustler, the Sept brothers, they've got it for sale for $360. So it's like, man, that's a massive savings. That's a good $55, right? So I think Mardo has them for the same price. So Mardo, Sept brothers at Cigar Hustler, they all have it online. If you want to buy some, buy it there. Or if you just need a couple, you can find them locally. So and I don't normally buy online a lot. I mean, I don't buy a lot of cigars online, but sometimes, like in this case, I'll buy it online. Like when I bought the Volstead box, the box press Volsteads, I got those from Cigar Hustler. And Tony says 15% in there. Ooh, 15%. Mamma mia. So 15%. Let's see. What is that? Is 1729 15%? Let me see. Let's see. $15 times 1.15. Oh, 1725. Okay. All right. Maybe I'm not going to be so down on that. And Brian says, I like him now that he tried to kill Ahsoka and that dumb grin that's always on her face. Die, Jedi, die. I kind of like Ahsoka. Actually, I like Child Ahsoka, when she was young and like in the flashback. And they were fighting the Clone Wars. She's like, is this the Clone Wars? No, we're just fighting for no reason. And then finally, now we've reached the new galaxy, and they've revealed Grand Admiral Thrawn, who looks like a blue Data from Star Trek with red eyes. I was like, that guy looks like Data. And you can already see that other dude, the old guy, the old Jedi guy, you can already see the machinations that he's going to turn back to the light. He's going to come back to the light side of the Force. Is it called the light side of the Force? The dark side of the light? Yeah, the dark and light side, yeah. Yeah, look, 9 o'clock. We're plowing through this cigar. We are plowing through this cigar. I'm actually alarmed. I'm alarmed at this. But let's see what this is all about. So it's a 5x50 Robusto, which I think is kind of small. And here's the thing. I wonder if you got this in a 6x56, would that give more punch? Like George is asking, how about the strength? Is it Neanderthal? Well, no, it's not Neanderthal. But I do wonder if it was a bigger cigar, how would that impact the experience and flavor? So one thing, this is going to be supposedly going to be a limited release cigar. 50,000 cigars have been produced, and they'll have 5,000 or 2,000 24 count boxes, and then about the same amount of 24 count bundles. So you can buy it by the box, you can buy it by the bundle eventually. I think some retailers have gotten the bundles in. The box itself is let me see if I can find a photo of it, but the box itself is rather massive. Like I saw it at the store here. Let's look at Cigar Coop has it. And you know, these also, I'm guessing that these are the numbers that you see on like people's houses. So it's pretty big. This is a pretty big box. Like it's a pretty big box. So as you can see here, wrappers Ecuadorian Sumatra with Dominican binder and filler. So interesting stuff. Interesting. I'm starting to feel a little bit like heavier. I need more hydration to keep going. So here we are. 9 o'clock, and we're not gonna, there's no way we can make it at 10 o'clock with this. I don't think that's gonna happen. So yeah, I wonder if they were to offer this in a larger size, how would it perform? I imagine that during their development of this, they did try this blend in larger sizes. Oh, yes. Thank you, George. I totally set my mind about that. Shout out to Brian. I saw his appearance on WBL with his My Cozy Corner segment. Love organization that help us. Absolutely. So I will put the link in the description later. I forgot to put that on today. I did put it on today's coffee Q&A segment in that description. If you want to look right now and go to the onocoffee channel and look up today's episode of the coffee Q&A live stream, I do have a link to the WBL segment there. And so if you're not familiar, Brian has this charity drive, or I don't know, he's working with a couple charities to make these things called My Cozy Corner. And My Cozy Corner are these little projects inside public schools where he's taking a corner of that school, that classroom, and he's setting up basically like a little reading nook for students to come in, bookshelves filled with books and games, you know, work tables, bean bags, and then these kind of like, if you can imagine the Saturday Night Fever floors, but made out of like gel instead of lighted squares. It's kind of like that. And so it helps with like learning disabilities and, you know, encouraging children to, you know, engage with each other. Part of the reason that he got into it is because he was saying that, you know, especially during the pandemic, people, you know, a lot of students were separated. They didn't have that social interaction. So these My Cozy Corner sections are to help students, you know, reacclimatize to engaging with other students through games and books and things like that. And we're going to tap it out again. We are really like flying through the cigar now. And I think the cigar is now a little bit unevenly lit. And you're asking, or George, about the weightiness of the cigar. I'm starting to feel more of a weightiness from smoking the cigar. Like, and maybe that's because the proximity of the burn to my nose is now closer. So I feel like I'm a little more of that slowing down on the puffing. I want to touch up the cherry here. We use some small matches this time. Not that the cigar is burned out. It hasn't burned out, but I'm feeling that there's only part of it that's still lit. So I wanted to even that out. I'm getting better smoke production on that last puff. Oh, yeah. All right, so now we're at this point here, right? So at this time with a normal Roma craft, you'd have to pull it apart. You have to pull it over and burn your fingers. Like that's kind of warm, right? However, at least this is true on Saturday. Now I think because this is the thing, because it's made by Tabacalera La Alianza, it's a different band. It's not the typical Roma craft band. So we're gonna pull on it here. Right here where the Roma Craft logo is a little bit of it's a bit of a die cut. So I'm going to stick my finger underneath it. Look at that. Oh. How's that? That's not Roma. And if you notice here, I don't know if you can notice it. I think it might be too bright for the camera to catch. But there's actually an embossing of date. It's MMXXII, so 2022, and here it's MCMLXXII, which is 72, which is 1972, which is Skip's birth year. And then somewhere along here is another. There it is, right there. Catch it right there. Oh, look at that. And as you can see here, there's a slight blue printing here that matches up against here to give it a little bit more of a pop on the band. That's a nice little detail. I like that. Now, on the other cigars, they have something printed on the back of the band. This does not. That one neither. So there it is. That's a little bit of a big difference between the regular Romas. Ryan says, Steve must still be driving home from work. I priority mailed this stick to him, but not sure it made it there in time. I'm enjoying it. Oh, you are enjoying it. So what do you think about it, Brian? You're smoking it. And any of you guys have tried this cigar, let me know. Let us know in the comments what you think. Is your cigar performing as well as mine? I think mine is performing very, very well. Actually, I'm enjoying this much more than I enjoyed the one on Saturday night. Like I said, the one on Saturday night, I was a little bit like, I guess maybe disappointed would probably be the only term to use. Like, just because it wasn't, I guess maybe I had hyped it up. Maybe I was expecting some kind of revelation, right? But it was just a good smoke. Well, there's Buddy. What's going on, Buddy? Buddy's down in North Carolina, having just finished dinner and letting up a VSG. Excellent, excellent, excellent. How are things going down there? How are things going? I guess the drive was good. Did you smoke on the way down? When I do long road trips, let's say like 3 hours plus, I'm going to some destination. Like if I go to Carolina, like if I go down to like, I don't know, Raleigh or something, 6 hours from here, or if I go up to Boston, 8 hours, New York, 4 hours, 3 to 4 hours. When I drive to a place like New York, let's say New York or Richmond, that kind of distance, I'm typically smoking along the way. And I typically like rate it for an hour per cigar. So let's say if I drive to New York, probably smoke 2 cigars. Like I won't smoke back to back. Got to have a little bit of time to breathe. And if I go to New York, to Boston, that's probably a good 5 or 6 cigars. Bud says he did not smoke on the way down. A lot warmer here than home. Oh, nice. So are we still talking like warm weather, like 80s, or like here we're dipping down into the upper 50s, mid 50s? And then Tony says, Bud, so you made it down without leaving your daughter rest? Come on now, she's past that age. She's past that age. She's now in her 20s. I don't know how about you guys were, but when I was in my like late teens, oh, what a jerk off I was. I was total jerk off to my parents. Like, I don't know. My father and I totally weren't talking for a couple of years. But I got about 22. Then we resumed. Hostilities had ceased and resumed a good relationship. Did faith drop and roll? And D-Love says, I highly enjoyed it. Definitely high up on my top cigars. Oh, fantastic. Yeah, I mean, this is definitely very, very good. So tell us a little bit about yourself, D-Love. Like, so this is one of your top cigars. Do you have a go-to cigar? Like, what's your favorite cigar? And how does this rank to your favorite? I'm going to try to stretch a little bit. Like, I could totally power through this thing. We are coming up on the second third. Not quite there. Almost there. Turned out to be a nice ride down. Oh, nice, nice. She left the house unlocked. Did she really? Like, did somebody have to go there and lock the door? Yeah, I was hoping to actually get out to the Sporting Clays range today so I could text you guys and be like, I'm shooting. Never made it. Never made it. Too much going on here at the roastery. So right now, that last puff getting a little bit warm. So that's a good sign to slow down a bit more. Let it cool off. Let it mellow. And I think we can say that we are at our, where is it? We are finished our second third. So let me, I think we're still rolling for flavor 875, and as well as the body 875. We've been very consistent, very, very consistent. So that gives us here, I'll show you this. So 875, 875. Very enjoyable, very, very much so. But it says technical difficulty. It was actually locked. Okay, good, good. And D-Love saying, La Plena Goldies are some of my favorite cigars. It's not better, but it's different. Okay, gotcha. I got tons of fruit and citrus on that Quinquagenario. Oh, I'm not getting much fruit, but interesting. It's citrus. Some chocolate caramel, fantastic smoke. Absolutely. I definitely can say that there would be some elements of that chocolate and caramel. For me, it's not as apparent. Like, I get a lot more blending of the flavors. Overall, a very wholly enjoyable flavor, which is different. Like, a lot of times with aromas, you'll get like pronunciations of different flavor characters, where this one is definitely a lot more blended. And George says, love how Jay talks to himself about slowing down in terms of quick smoking, and yet I still haven't. It's like those times. I'm not going to eat that whole pizza. I'm not going to eat that whole steak. Did you do? Actually, I did that today. Had a big steak, had a nice steak, ribeye. I did the reverse, not the reverse. I did the cold sear. If you're not familiar with cold sear, you take your steak, right? You season it, you let it sit down, you let it sit out or whatever, and then you put it in a cold pan. Today I used a cast iron pan, a nice Griswold, old school, that nice slick, like smooth cast iron. And you take that, you put in a cold cast iron or carbon steel, whatever pan you're using, stainless, whatever you have. Put in the cold pan, put that on the heat, turn up the heat to full blast. 4 minutes, turn it over. 4 minutes, turn it over. 2 minutes, turn it over, and you do a rotation. You flip sides every 2 minutes until you reach whatever internal temperature you want. So for me today, I'm shooting for about 120 degrees Fahrenheit. Reach that. So that basically was 4, 4, 2, 2, done. And the steak was probably about an inch thick. Really nice marbled. And yeah. Brian says chocolate and caramel. Yes. Okay. Oh, awesome. Awesome. And that actually, we've always been talking about like using hot pans. And but by doing it this way, I learned this from that Asian lady that's on America's Test Kitchen. And by doing it, you still build up a nice crust. Like, it's super nice crust on it. And let's see. Yeah, so you start off like this, right? Come on. Okay, well, it's not going to turn, but you start off like this. And then by turning it, you end up with this. So the results are really surprisingly quite nice. And that was some sauteed carrot chips along with it. So if you haven't tried this cold sear, I think it's worth checking out and giving it a try and see how you like it. So now we have so many ways of cooking steak. I just go and buy choice steaks, right? Like we were at the store the other day, and like, there's, of course, as you know, there's select, there's choice, there's prime meats, right? USDA, there's USDA inspectors at each of the slaughterhouses, and they grade the steaks. And so, of course, the select, choice, and prime's going to be much more expensive, right? However, what I've found is that if you look carefully at each individual steak, you can find very lovely marbles in the steaks that are choice, that would be typically prime, but they're graded as choice. And so you get a real good deal on the steak itself. And the reason that happens is because, of course, the inspectors, when they're grading the beef, they're looking at the full side of beef, right? The whole half cow. And then they grade that half cow based on whatever they're seeing. And that becomes prime and choice. Whereas, when you're actually looking at the cuts, you're actually looking at the cross section and you can actually see the marbling. And so I like to look for ribeyes that have a very large cap. Like hopefully the cap is bigger than the other parts. And hopefully we're seeing lots of striations of fat throughout it. And this particular one had a lot of that. And man, it was like super unctuous. Actually, maybe it was a little bit too much for me. Tony says earbuds are dying. So have a good night, everyone. Oh, good night, Tony. Have a good, thanks for tuning in. Good to have you with us. Hope it's not too noisy the rest of the evening there. All right, so I have been talking a lot, so the smoke has cooled. Much more enjoyable this way. Much more enjoyable. I was watching this. So speaking of, if you get the new, I have the Apple original earbuds, the AirPods. They're nice. I use them once in a while. But I was watching this guy on YouTube, a guy named Colt Cutterow or something like that. He's an audio engineer down in Nashville. His own studios. He records all these country music people, and he really talks a lot about the process of mixing and recording music. But one of the interesting things he was talking about the other day on one of the videos was he was talking about how there's something called Dolby Atmos, and you've probably seen the Dolby Atmos system in movie theaters, right? It's really used in a lot of movies. So you can basically, by having 7 or 9.1 speakers, so basically you've got your fronts, your left, right sides, left, right to the back. You have left, right on the top. You have a center channel, and then you have a subwoofer channel, which is the 0.1. When you have it configured for Atmos, you can basically set a sound anywhere in your field, like your sound field around you. It's really wild. I saw one of the Atmos recording studios in Indiana when I went to visit Sweetwater Sound, and it's pretty impressive. But they were saying that Apple, in their new pro level, the pro, quote unquote, pro AirPods, and so the AirPods Pro and then the big earmuff Pros, those have Atmos system circuitry or whatever algorithms built into it. So as you're mixing for Atmos, it will actually mimic that in the ears. And I was like, whoa, that's some pretty crazy stuff. So I'm not gonna buy new earbuds, but I was like, that'd be kind of awesome to check out. Here it is, 3 puffs. That last puff is a little bit hot. Whew. So what's been happening in the world? Anything interesting? I don't know if you guys saw it, but today there was actually a crash. The Farmingdale High School, New York, in Orange County, New York, in the same county where Orange County Choppers is from. The high school band was on a trip going somewhere in a nice like motor coach, and for however reason it crashed off the freeway and killed one person, and I think injured a bunch of them. It was terrible. Actually, 2 people were killed. It's terrible. So it looks like we're going to have a government shutdown. I just was seeing a report there talking about, Republicans have left town for whatever reason. I got to understand these politicians, right? Like regular Americans, people, we work 50 weeks out of the year. These guys in Congress, man, they work 20 weeks out of the year. They go home all the time and like, we got a crisis. Let's go home. Country's going to shut down. Let's go home. I don't get it. Like those guys, they're like, we have great health insurance. The rest of you guys, you don't have to worry about it. You'll be fine. Just don't get sick. Don't get hit by a car. And D-Love says, fantastic review, bro. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Love listening to you while I'm on night shift. Enjoy the rest of that cigar. Oh, thank you very much, man. Thank you for tuning in. Glad you can join us. Come join us next time. Every Thursday night, 8 p.m. Eastern time. We're always here. So come and join us for the Thursday night hang. Great to have you with us today. Hope you have a great week. Brian says, they discovered a Lincoln log style living structure that's, really? 470,000 years old. Did they say where that was? And evidently, India and Canada are having diplomatic spats. So they have suspended visas for Canadian nationals that want to go visit India. That's pretty bad. I don't know what they do. And D-Love, if you're still there, if you haven't left us, Brian would like to know, what do you do for a living that you're on the night shift? I'm curious too, actually. In other news I saw, I guess the Armenians have reached a little bit of a blow. Like there's, you may not know, I have a video on this channel. It's about Steve Dudaklian from Beatles Leatherworks, who is this great cobbler down in Falls Church, Virginia. I get my shoes done by him, and I made a video with him a couple years ago, or maybe a year ago. Yeah, 2 years ago we shot that. Released it about a year early this year. And he's talking about his family history, and he's Armenian by ethnicity, and his family immigrated from Lebanon to the United States in the 70s. But, of course, there is a country, Armenia, which borders Azerbaijan. And there's a little, I think it's called Karakata or something like that. There's a little enclave of Armenian people inside Azerbaijan that have declared independence. And they've been kind of fighting to be recognized as their own like autonomous region or nation on their own. But evidently fighting had broke out again recently between the Azerbaijanis and these Armenians, these ethnic Armenians. And I guess they've reached a point where Russia brokered a deal with the Armenians to lay down their weapons, break up their militias, and become part of Azerbaijan. And Azerbaijan will, I guess, respect that. So that's an interesting development that I read earlier this week. And Brian says Armenians may be at war again at this. And unfortunately, it seems that from the reading that I've done, the Armenians have really been, persecuted throughout history by Azerbaijanis, by Turkish. They've faced genocide in the early 1900s, which caused a mass exodus to Lebanon, where they've set up, their own like communities within Lebanon. It's a very interesting and very difficult situation they have there. Oh, there's Stephen trying the new cigar now. Oh, yes. Let us know what you think. I'm trying to prolong the last third as much as possible, especially since I know you're joining us. So, uh-oh. My Quinquagenario has gone out. maybe that's what we should talk about. Quinquagenario. This is a Spanish word based on Quinquagenarians. I guess how you'd say it in English. Quinquagenario would be like the singular version of Quinquagenarian. Quinquagenarians. Quinquagenarian? Yeah, Quinquagenarian. Quinquagenario is the Spanish version of it. Brian says, Armenians are looked down on like the Georgians. Oh, I didn't know the Georgians were looked down as well. My friend was just there visiting Georgia. It looked like she had a great time. On her Facebook, she's like, I had a great time. And I had a great time. Then I talked to her and she's like, I didn't have a great time. I was like, really? Why did you post it? She's like, I don't want to be negative. I was like, oh, all right. So I think we have to relay. I'm going to tap it out. Actually, I shouldn't have done that. That's it. And Brian also says, Steve did arrive yesterday. Oh, Steve did arrive yesterday or today. Three puffs. In local news, the Baltimore Orioles have secured a spot in the postseason. They call it postseason? They call it something else, don't they? But this is really monumental. Evidently, the Orioles have not had a postseason game since 2016. Prior to that, it hasn't been since 1983 when I was in 8th grade. Maybe they'll make it to the World Series. Gosh, who knows? Evidently, they have wiped out, or they have defeated all 29 teams in the MLB in Major League Baseball. They beat all of them at some point this season, which they're the only team in the history of the MLB to have ever done that in one season. Oh, it came in today just in the nick of time. Gotcha. Nice. They go O's. Yeah, maybe it's time to be excited. I'm definitely one of the fair weather type of fans. Actually, I'm still harboring some ill will towards the Orioles from the 2012 Ravens season. And if you don't recall, so throughout the season of 2012, back then I had season tickets, so I was at every game. I was fanatical right back then. And then I was like psycho crazy, like going to all the games. Wherever I travel to in the world, I'm watching the games, right? I'm making all the effort. And I remember during that whole season, of course, the Orioles players would come and to the games. They'd be sitting in the skybox of the Ravens, and the Ravens would always take the time to recognize the Orioles, and everybody is always very supportive of them. Well, it's 2013 season. So after winning the Super Bowl in January or February of 2013, the winner of the Super Bowl typically has the first game of the year at home. That would have been us having a home game, season opener at M&T Bank Stadium. Well, because the Orioles and the Ravens share the same parking lot, the Orioles had a game scheduled for that day. And the Orioles refused to give up that slot, which meant that the Ravens had to have their season opener in Denver. And that just kind of upset me. I was like, Ravens fans and the Ravens have always been very supportive of the Orioles, and they couldn't move one day. There's 160 games a year. And they're like, we might be in the postseason. You're never in the postseason, especially back then, never going to be in the postseason. Of course, they were in the postseason. I don't know. I'm so salty. Better than the Yankees again, which is a good thing. Don't like the Yankees. Speaking of Yankees, we haven't seen Rusty tonight. Wonder how he's doing. So Steve, buddy wants to know, is it still really hot down there in Arizona? How hot is it down there, Steve? Let us know. and let us know what you think about this cigar. At least your first impressions. Feeling a little bit choky. Maybe too much smoke. Like I typically have when I get to this point of the cigar, it's always a little bit more difficult for me to smoke because of that relation of smoke to my nose. I don't know if you guys have that. I tend to have that issue. Yeah, we're getting a bit of an uneven burn now. Look at that. It burns a bit uneven. Brian says it's 92. Oh, that's pretty good. That's a nice temperature there in Arizona. But not a dry 68. Oh yeah, dry. It is nice here too. It is nice here. So we do have an uneven burn going on. I'm going to try to even that out. I've been using a lot of matches lately because I got a lot of matches and I want to try to go through them. It's still got a great burn, a lot of smoke. Cool 94. I like the cigar. Had to nurse it a little to keep it straight. Oh. Could that be from the way that you lit it, maybe? Or has it just been burning uneven? I'm definitely enjoying it. And Steve says, pink cotton candies. Oh, that's a pretty nice night. What does that mean? Is there a meaning when there's a meaning when the skies are different colors, right? Oh, speaking of Arizona, I read that there's going to be a full eclipse happening in your part of the world, Steve, soon. I think next month. I saw a headline that said, "Oh, eclipse coming to North America." I was like, "Oh my gosh, I want to go check that out." When we had the eclipse in 2017, I drove down to Carolina to get in the path of it, and of course, the path, the place that I chose was perfectly in the eclipse zone, perfectly, except for the clouds. I experienced part of it, like it got dark, but the cloud cover kind of obscured the view of I was like, oh, I was very disappointed, very disappointed. But I thought it was so cool. I was like, this is some cool stuff. Like, I think if you have the time, Steve, it's definitely worth driving to whatever zone that is in Arizona and trying it out, because it's really like, wow. Pink means impending weather. Ah, okay. Surprised we don't have pink here. I heard that we're going to have like tropical storm weather soon. And Steve says, I'm definitely enjoying the cigar. Just got off through. Okay, gotcha. Oh, per the yeah, I think we're going to have some rain this weekend, which is disappointing because I was thinking Saturday in York, Pennsylvania, there's this pawpaw festival. And if you're not familiar with pawpaw is this regional fruit that grows mostly in the wild in the mid-Atlantic, and people just go crazy for it. I mean, I've had it several times, and it's good. I've never really meshed with it to that point of like obsession, but some friends of mine are obsessed with it. But I saw they're having a pawpaw festival. I was thinking, oh, maybe a Saturday I'll go check that out. That's up in York. And then I was thinking on Sunday I was going to go to the Pennsylvania Renaissance Fair. But if it's going to rain, I don't know. I don't want to be dressed up as a knight in the rain. That would not be nice. My brother actually has been on a wholly unrelated to the Renaissance Fest. My brother's like, he's really been into 3D printing over the last couple of years. So he's got like 2 or 3 3D printers, and he's been working on this project kind of off and on for the last month or so to do the Black Knight helmet. You know, the guy that's like in Monty Python's Holy Grail, none shall pass. You know, he's got that. He's been working at that. It looks pretty. He's been printing it in sections. It looks pretty dope. I was like, dude, you need to bring that to the Renaissance Festival. Steven says, I would buy this cigar with my knee. Oh, that's a good one. Yeah, you should totally. And Lake Mead is up a good. Oh, excellent. I mean, for me, I first went to Lake Mead and the Hoover Dam back in 1996. And back then they were doing like full tours, which they've stopped evidently since 9/11. But back then you went deep into the core of the dam. You went to the power plant. You went to the wall. You got to look out of the wall of the Hoover Dam. And then you went to the bypass tunnels into the chamber that has the bypass tunnels. Now, I don't know how to talk to this, but I remember like we went to this bypass tunnel, and these like steel tubes are like 20 feet or 40 feet in diameter. And you go through like a pressurized door, like one of the ones you see like on submarines. And everybody goes in, like a group of 25. They close the door, they lock it, and they're like, we have to lock the door because in case it breaks, we don't want to have the dam flooded. And they were basically like, if it breaks, you won't even know, because it'll be like that submarine. It breaks and then you're dead, just like that. Boom. I was like, oh, that's kind of freaky. Brian says, pop-off festivals, mamas and papas. Oh, interesting. Where's that being held? I saw my friend Teresa last night. She was in town for a day. She lives up in New York City. We grew up together. And so like she works for an organization, this medical organization that does medical relief programs around the world. Really interesting kind of work. Really like she does good work for the world, right? Work that's really just depressing kind of thing. Like she was telling me this. There's a lot of South Sudanese refugees flooding into Uganda, the northern border of Uganda, because of the war that's happening there. And, you know, they're all in these refugee camps, and she's working with programs to help these refugees, and they've got their people on the ground there. And like, she was like, it's just almost fruitless because they can't do enough. Like they can't get enough food for people. Like people will have like maybe 3 kilos worth of food for like a week for a family of 6. So she's like, it's really just difficult. But she was in Kampala for a couple of days, and I connected her with a friend of mine who owns a coffee shop there. Really great guy, Simon Ochoa. And I actually have a video with Simon on this channel. And he was kind enough to send some coffee through her to me. So I'll be tasting that this coming week. Maybe we'll do that for next week on this show, and then I'm going to do it for one of the coffee Q&As on the main channel. But I think that'll be interesting. Like he's really one of these baristas that has done his own shop. And when I first met him years ago in the competitions, he was just kind of like an innovator, like innovative thinking in coffee making and drink preparation. And he's been able to take that passion and build it slowly in his home country. And he's really making an interesting impact on the coffee scene there. We're still going. 9:40, not bad. I thought we'd be done by now, but we're not. We're still rolling. Brian says, send me the recipe. Okay, no problem. I'll make sure we get some of that done. So, of course, it's to the end, so it's definitely burning hotter. I don't think we'll count that against it because, it's just kind of the nature of how it is at this point. I'm gonna stop for a moment. It's like my fingers, it's actually kind of burning my fingers. So I'm gonna have to keep rotating it. So I'm gonna stop for a moment, let it cool down, see if we can continue a little bit longer. Steven says, now in the second, third, whoa, man, you are flying through this cigar. Or maybe you're not. Maybe I'm just, conjuring that thought up. Has really come alive. Lighter puffs, best flavor. Oh, so that's something we were talking about earlier. So, Steve, there's something that what your thoughts on. Are you a single puffer? Are you a double or triple puffer? Like a lot of us tend to be double and triple puffing per puff, right? One of the other guys that's kind of gone back to work, D-Love, he's talking about how he does a little puff to prime, and then he does a nice slow puff. And I was like, oh, that's very luxuriant. Would you buy it again at nearly $18? Ooh. It was going out. Yeah, I probably would. I mean, there's only what? 4,000 of these made? Yeah, 50,000 total. So 4,000 boxes and bundles. Yeah, I'd probably buy more. I'd be interested in buying a box. Like I'd like to buy a box because I think I'd like to see it as it ages, how it changes. Of course, this is the kind of cigar, maybe after this experience, I'd smoke through a lot of them because I wouldn't be able to have control. But he says, I guess Steve smokes as fast as Brian. Well, brothers, they are brothers. Brian's more single than double. And Buddy says, I'm only halfway through the VSG and I started long before him. So, Bud, you're definitely like more that luxuriant puffing kind of guy. Brian says, quintuple puff. Quintuple puff for the Quinquagenario. And Steve says, retrohale is fantastic. I'm not very good at retrohaling. Really bad at that. And this has gone out. Shall I try to relight it? Hey, let's try to relight it. We still have another 15 minutes or so. But let's actually go through the scoring first. Let's do the scoring first, and then we'll relight it. Continue on a little bit longer. I'm going to say that, it's relatively been consistent and static in that respect. 875 for the flavor, 875 for medium plus body, so 17.5 again. Burn and draw overall has been very, very excellent. I won't say excellent. I'm going to say 9 for the burn and draw. Consistency, very consistent. We're going to go for 9 for the consistency. Overall, I'm going to say 8. I mean, really, we have a lot of 875s, a lot of 9s, and 1 8. So I'm going to say 875. Which, let's see what we're going to do here. Oh, Steven says he does single slow draw. Oh yeah, you see, you're like that. You're like D-Love. He's like all like luxury smoking. All right, let's have a little look at our scoring here. We've got, let's clear that out. 8 plus 17.5 plus 17.5 plus 17.5 plus 18 plus us 8.75, and that gives us 87.25. Turn that around for you guys. You can see what it looked like. So 87.25. Nice. Nicely done there. Nicely done there, Skip. And let's pull up our scoring and see where it fits in. $87.25. Oh, look at that. We do have a tie somewhere. No, we don't have a tie here in this part of the. Oh, no, we do have a tie now. So the sixth cigar of the year, it's tied with the Don Juan Urquijo Vintage Blend Robusto from August 3rd. So overall number 6. Excellent. Excellent. Of course, it's being bested this year by the Mir Felmir, the Don Pepin Garcia 20th, the Tatuay Loma de Cervo, the Fox Dublin Nicaragua, and the La Polina 125. So that's a good turnout. That's a good showing. That's a very good showing. Brian says we smoke like tall men. And Buddy says, I used to smoke as fast as Brian. I just can't afford to anymore. Yeah, well, who really of us can? Who really of us can? Top shelf man, we reach the. I hear you on that. All right, let's go for this light again. See if we can light it up one more time. Finish out our time together. We're going to do the Cirillo relight just around the edge. I blew that out. Now, even though I'm puffing at the very, very end of the cigar, this part of it is not performing like the rest of it. Like, it's definitely more acrid, a little more bitter, a little more burned. But yeah, I would definitely be interested in a box. Let's be honest. Let's go back. Is my interest in a box more because I'm a RoMa fanboy? Perhaps that's part of it. Ooh, my fingers are burning. The range has a tournament this weekend. I don't know if that means that all the lanes are taken up this weekend. But Brian, I'm thinking about going maybe tomorrow. Okay, this is burning my fingers now. Okay, I can hold it. That's too much. All right. That was pretty burny. Ow, my fingertips are singed. Whew, my cousins called me this week. They're like, hey, you want to come down with us to Disney? They want to go to Disney. Like, our cousin's coming in from Hawaii. He's like, let's go to Disney for a weekend. I was like, how much is Disney now? So if you get the park hopper pass, which means you can go between parks, 1 day pass, park hopper, $250. Is it worth it or not? It seems expensive to me. Steven says, pricey stick, enjoying the last second. This is like a once a month splurge, celebratory type for me. Oh, gotcha. I'm glad you're enjoying it. That's really the most important part. All right. Well, I guess that's going to be it. I got cigars finished. It's almost 10 o'clock. I guess that's going to be good. Thank you very much for tuning in and coming with me this week. It's been nice having all of you. What do we have going on? Next week is, let me see if I can find it. I'll go look it up here. All right. So next week, scheduled up is the All Saints St. Francis on September 28th. So that's Mickey Peg's cigar. We had All Saints earlier this year. Was pretty good, I think. So looking forward to trying that. Then as we move into October, we're going back to another Philadelphia native son with the J. London Gold, which is a local guy in Philly that hangs out at Cigar Mojo, and he has his own cigar line. And he's got the Gold as one of his first lines of cigars. And then finally, October 12th, what we're going to originally smoke this weekend, the DBL La Pipa, which is this kind of pipe-shaped cigar that I just thought looked cool. I wanted to give it a try. All right, so that's pretty much it again. Thank you very much for tuning in this week. Glad to have you. If you're just joining us on the replay, come join us every Thursday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. We do the Thursday night hang here on Coffee and Cigars here on the Ono Live channel. And yeah, if you're interested in more coffee, I've been doing morning live streams on the Ono Coffee channel for the coffee Q&A. And tomorrow we'll be talking about coffee books on coffee that maybe you might be interested in getting. So that's going to be tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. But until next time, I hope we have a great week. And yeah, there it is. Hope you have a good one. And see you next time.